My dad lifted that $2,000 MacBook with both hands high above his head, then slammed it down on the floor with all his strength. A loud crash echoed through the room as the MacBook hit the ground and shattered. The screen cracked completely, the keyboard flew off, and fragments scattered all across the floor. The MacBook I'd bought as a birthday gift for my daughter had been destroyed by my dad just like that. After that brutal act, my dad shouted, "This is punishment for being selfish. Why did he act like that? What happened? Let's follow this story together." This is a story that proves the saying, blind favoritism leads to wrong actions. Before we get into the details of the story, thanks for choosing our story today. I wish you peace and happiness in this life. Could you give me a like if you want to wish me the same? Now, we should start the story. Hello everyone. I'm Daniel, 45 years old. The story I'm telling today happened on Mia's 14th birthday, exactly 2 years ago. It was my daughter's happiest day, but it was also her saddest, because that was when I realized the true faces of the people in my family. I'm a single dad. My wife passed away in May 2022 after an accident on the highway. She left so suddenly, leaving Mia and me with a void that nothing could ever fill. Since then, I've given all my love to Mia because I know that missing a mother's affection is the most significant disadvantage for a child. I try to be both father and mother, and also a friend, so that she can share everything in life with me. That's why it's Mia's birthday. That day was Mia's 14th birthday. Around 6 p.m., 12 guests had arrived at my house for the party. We invited my parents and my brother Alex's family, including his wife, Emily, and their son, Mason. There were also 2 close neighbors and a few of Mia's school friends. The party initially went on in a cheerful and warm atmosphere. Everyone sang happy birthday together. Mia happily blew out the candles, her face glowing in the flickering candlelight. I stood behind, quietly watching my daughter with a heart full of love. Seeing that warm atmosphere, I thought the party would go beautifully until the very end. But I was wrong. Just a few more minutes, and my daughter would experience a birthday that I'm sure she'll never forget for the rest of her life. Around 7 p.m., the part of the birthday party Mia looked forward to most that year was opening presents. She sat in the middle of the living room, surrounded by colorfully wrapped gifts, neatly arranged. Each gift was opened one by one. Mia was happy with every gift she received, from books to cute little makeup sets to small tech gadgets. She carefully thanked each person, her smile never leaving her face. After opening all the gifts from the guests, Mia turned to me, eyes full of curiosity and anticipation, and asked, "Dad, aren't you giving me a gift?" Hearing my daughter ask, I smiled mysteriously and replied, "Of course, there's a gift for Dad's beloved daughter. Just wait a moment." After what I said, Mia smiled brightly, her eyes full of excitement, and I stepped into my office and brought out the gift box I'd prepared beforehand for my daughter. When you hear this, you'll think I'm making too big a deal out of not bringing out my daughter's gift earlier. If you believe that, then you're right. I deliberately made myself the last person to give Mia a gift. Since Mia is very passionate about technology, I had prepared a surprise gift for her birthday that year. It was a brand new MacBook. I hoped that with this MacBook, she'd have a better tool to pursue her passion for programming. I had carefully wrapped the MacBook in a gift box with multiple layers of paper and ribbons. I wanted to create the biggest surprise possible for my daughter. When I brought the gift box to the living room, whispers started echoing everywhere. The people present began whispering to each other. One neighbor said quietly to the person next to them, "Must be an expensive gift since Daniel kept it hidden and wrapped it so formally like that." The other person nodded in agreement and replied, "I think this gift might not be worth much, but it's definitely very meaningful to Mia." Hearing their whispers, I didn't respond. I walked past everyone, approached my daughter, and gave her the gift with all my love. Mia took the gift, her eyes wide with surprise. She almost screamed with excitement. "Oh my God! What's inside, Dad? The gift box is so big." Hearing my daughter speak, I patted her head and replied, "Open it and see. I hope you'll like it." After what I said, Mia began opening each layer of the gift box. First was the wrapping paper on the outside. She carefully opened it a little at a time, afraid of damaging the gift inside. This carefulness reminded me of Mia's mother. She had the same personality as my wife, always meticulous and thoughtful in the most minor things. Looking at her in that moment, I had imagined the scene where Mia would take the gift, her eyes bright, then rush over to hug me and whisper thanks. I imagined she'd be so happy she couldn't speak, would hold the MacBook tight like a treasure. But that was just my imagination. Everything that happened after was completely the opposite. When she had just opened part of the gift box, an unexpected incident happened that left everyone stunned. Mason, Alex's son, suddenly stepped forward from behind and grabbed the gift box from Mia's hands. He said excitedly, "Let me open it." Before Mia, and the others could react, Mason quickly tore through the wrapping paper. His rough hands continued ripping apart the inner paper layer. 10 seconds. In less than 10 seconds, Mason had finished opening the gift box. Looking at his skilled actions, I was certain he'd been tearing open gifts very professionally for years. After seeing the expensive MacBook inside, Mason grabbed the laptop, held it up high, and shouted victoriously, "The MacBook is mine now." After saying that, he took the MacBook and walked straight to where his parents were standing, as if it were a prize he'd just won. What shocked me most at that moment wasn't Mason's actions, but my own family's reaction. My parents burst out laughing. Their laughter rang out full of delight at what had just happened, as if this were some fun joke. My dad even stepped over to pat Mason's head and said proudly, "My grandson is so good at opening gifts." My mom immediately chimed in, saying to Mason in a spoiling voice, "Mason is so clever. This reward rightfully belongs to you." Alex and his wife hugged Mason, their faces full of pride as if their son had just achieved something praiseworthy. At this point, I turned to look at Mia. My heart felt crushed when I saw my daughter crying. Tears began rolling down her cheeks. Her birthday, her gift, her joy, everything had been brazenly stolen right in front of everyone. Right after that, unable to contain the rage boiling inside me, I walked straight to where they were standing and shouted, "Mason, give the MacBook back to Mia, right now." Mason backed away, standing behind Alex and Emily. He replied defiantly, "No, the MacBook is mine. My parents said if I open the gift before Mia, I get this gift." Mason's statement helped me realize a painful truth. He'd been spoiled so much that he could no longer tell right from wrong. At the same time, I also realized this was a plan Alex and Emily had set up beforehand. They had planned this for Mason to steal my daughter's happiest day. That calculation and cruelty were beyond belief. I could no longer stay calm. I stepped forward, reached out and grabbed the MacBook from Mason's hands, and said loudly in a steely voice, "This is a gift I bought for my daughter. If you want a gift, go ask your mom and dad." At this point, Mason put both hands up, trying to hold onto the MacBook, his face red with anger. Alex immediately stepped forward, pulled my hands away, and said irritably, "You can't fight with a child like this." I replied immediately, "But that's a MacBook I bought for my daughter. Do you understand that?" At this point, Emily jumped in. She said, "Come on, it's just a MacBook. Buy Mia something else. Give this one to Mason, okay?" Emily's words were like pouring fuel on the anger rising in me. I gritted my teeth and asked back, "Are you crazy, Emily? Have you ever given my daughter a gift worth over $100? Emily now angrily replied in a sharp voice, "Why do you always bring up money?" I looked straight at her face and said, "The problem isn't money. The problem is that you're always stingy with my daughter. There's no reason I should be generous with your son." Emily opened her mouth to say something, but she stopped, unable to find a response. Alex and Emily's faces were full of anger but helplessness. The neighbors were now also becoming uncomfortable with Alex's family's actions. They began speaking up in our defense. Mr. Johnson, the elderly neighbor, said sternly, "I've never seen anything like this. This is Mia's birthday. You people can't steal the child's gift like that." Mrs. Miller also nodded in agreement and added, "That's right. What kind of parenting is this? Letting him snatch other people's gifts and then being proud of it?" Mia's friends had now come to my daughter's side to comfort her. At that point, I thought everything would end soon. With pressure from the guests, Alex's family would certainly have to return the MacBook to my daughter. But I was wrong, completely wrong, because my dad and mom's subsequent actions would show me their true faces, faces I'd deliberately refused to see for so many years. Seeing the situation growing tense and potentially out of control, my parents also decided to join the conversation. My dad was the first to speak up. He stepped forward, stood facing me, and said, "Daniel, can you give that MacBook to Mason? I'll pay you back." Dad's words made me burst out laughing. Not a happy laugh, but the bitter laugh of someone who just realized a harsh truth. I laughed at his excessive favoritism. That day was my daughter's birthday, and he was demanding to buy back the gift I'd given my daughter to give to his spoiled grandson. Seeing me laugh, Alex asked irritably, "You having fun? What are you laughing at?" Without any hesitation, I replied immediately, "I'm laughing at our dad's favoritism. He has 2 grandchildren, but in his eyes, there's only Mason." Right away, my mom jumped in. She shouted in a harsh voice, "Daniel, he's your father. You need to respect him." As soon as Mom finished speaking, I replied immediately in a calm voice, "Fine. If Dad wants to buy it, the price for this MacBook is $4,000. As soon as I finished speaking, Alex immediately cut in and asked, "Are you joking? A MacBook worth $4,000? Is it studded with diamonds or something?" As soon as Alex finished, I turned to look at him and replied, "It's not studded with diamonds. $4,000 is the price for 2 MacBooks. If Dad wants to buy back this MacBook to give to your son, then he should also give my daughter one. That would be fair. My daughter is also his granddaughter. Or has he forgotten that?" Alex was completely silent after what I said. He couldn't find any words to argue back. After Alex shut up, I turned to Dad and said sarcastically, "I'm right, aren't I, my dear father? If you want to repurchase this MacBook, give me $4,000. One for Mason, one for Mia. Fair, right?" My dad was furious now, both his hands clenched into fists. He gritted his teeth and asked me, "Are you blackmailing me? For $1,000? What nonsense?" I replied immediately, my voice not shaking at all. "You and Mom have been favoring Mason way too much for too long. I'm just protecting my daughter's rights. Something you and Mom should have been doing as grandparents." Hearing what I said, my mom jumped in again. She said to me in that familiar lecturing tone, "Daniel, families need to know how to sacrifice for each other. You're almost 43 years old. Why don't you understand that yet?" As soon as Mom finished, I turned to look straight into her eyes and asked, "Families need to sacrifice for each other? Then let me ask you, Mom, when my wife died, did you love Mia more? When Mason got $2,000 for tuition last year, did Mia get a single cent? When Mason got taken to Hawaii for summer vacation by you and Dad, Mia stayed home alone. For Mason's birthday, you gave $3,000 for the party, while Mia's birthday gifts were just cheap gifts hastily bought from the dollar store. The way you're talking about it means my daughter and I have to be the ones sacrificing while you, Dad, and Alex's family only know how to take. Is that right?" My mom was stunned after my question. She wanted to say something, but stayed silent. The silence lasted several seconds. The room seemed frozen in tense air. Then suddenly, my dad shouted, breaking the silence, "Enough!" After saying that, he walked toward Mason with heavy, angry steps. He grabbed the MacBook from Mason's hands. The entire room held its breath, not knowing what he was going to do. I thought he would give it back to Mia, but no. He lifted the MacBook with both hands high above his head, then slammed it down on the floor with all his strength. A loud crash echoed through the room as the MacBook hit the ground and shattered. The screen cracked completely, the keyboard flew off, and fragments scattered all across the floor. Over $2,000 turned to dust in an instant. Seeing my dad smash the MacBook, Mia screamed in pain and then burst into sobs. My daughter collapsed, her shoulders shaking in waves. After that brutal act, my dad shouted, "This is punishment for being selfish." That statement of his left all my and Mia's guests stunned. After witnessing Dad's actions, I could no longer control my emotions. I rushed forward, grabbed my dad's collar tightly, and shouted in his face, "What the hell are you doing? Are you insane?" The entire room went dead silent when they saw the fist I'd raised. In that moment, I only knew one thing: to protect my daughter. I was ready to give him a beating. Even if he were my father, I didn't care. When Mia saw me about to hit my dad, she quickly ran over and hugged my arm tightly. Her voice choked as she pleaded, "Dad, please stop. Please don't hit him." Surprised by her unexpected intervention, I shouted at her, "Let go. Let me give him a beating. He smashed your MacBook." Mia turned pale with fear, but she didn't let go. Instead, she hugged my arm even tighter. She said to me shakily, "Dad, I don't want the police to arrest you. Please stop. Let's call the police instead of you hitting him. Please." Mia's words at that moment were like a bucket of cold water poured directly on the rage burning inside me. I realized I had almost made the biggest mistake of my life. At this point, the two neighbors also spoke up, supporting Mia's suggestion to call the police. Mr. Johnson stepped closer and said, "Daniel, calm down. Listen to Mia. Calling the police is the right way to handle this." After saying that, Mr. Johnson immediately dialed 911, without waiting for my agreement. Mia had now pulled my arm away from my dad's collar. My dad straightened his collar. Then he said through gritted teeth, "You dare to hit your father. Remember this day." After saying that, he signaled to my mom and Alex's family to leave, as if they were the victims in this situation. At this point, I stepped forward to block him and said, "Stop. The police will be here in a few minutes. You're not allowed to leave. You destroyed my property. You have to take responsibility." All five of them looked at me with eyes full of anger and hatred. A few seconds later, Mr. Johnson spoke up, his voice gentle but practical. "Let them go, Daniel. We'll testify for you when the police arrive." Hearing my neighbor's sincere advice, I thought for a few seconds, then stepped aside so they could leave. They walked out the door one by one. Not a single apology. Not a single look of remorse. Mason even turned back to look at me with a defiant expression. Just as they had left the house and were starting the car, I suddenly remembered something significant, something I had almost forgotten in my anger. Immediately, as fast as possible, I rushed out to the porch like an arrow. Getting there, I shouted, "Wait!" My dad was about to step on the gas to leave when, heard me shout, stopped, and rolled down the car window. I walked quickly toward the driver's side window. My dad now looked at me and asked triumphantly, "What's wrong? You realized you were wrong, didn't you?" I replied immediately in a calm voice. "Right, I realized I was wrong." After my answer, my dad broke into a satisfied smile. It was the smile of a winner, the satisfied smile of someone who thought he'd taught his wayward child a lesson. His voice was cheerful as he said to me, "I knew it. Admitting you're wrong is good. That's what makes you my son. Go inside. I'll talk to you tomorrow." While he was still wearing that victorious smile, I suddenly reached my hand through the car window, turned off the engine, and then pulled out the entire set of car keys. My unexpected action startled my dad. The smile on his face froze. My mom, sitting in the passenger seat, hurriedly asked in a panicked voice, "Daniel, what are you doing?" Ignoring Mom's question, I didn't bother to answer. I looked straight into Dad's eyes, smiled, and said, "I was wrong for letting you borrow this car for the past 3 years. From now on, I'm taking it back. This is my car. I have the right to take it back whenever I want." My answer left my parents so shocked that they couldn't speak. After realizing he'd been played, my dad exploded in anger, shouting like a cornered animal, "You dare to mess with me? You?" Before he could finish his sentence, applause rang out from behind me. The guests, seeing me run quickly to the porch, had also curiously followed and witnessed everything. Mr. Johnson said loudly with a delighted voice, "Well done, Daniel. Make those two old folks walk home. Serves them right." My parents were furious at that point. My dad jumped out of the car, then opened the trunk and took out a hammer he always kept there. Seeing the hammer in his hands, I wasn't afraid at all. On the contrary, I laughed and said calmly, "Oh dear Dad, what are you planning to do with that hammer? If you hit me with the hammer, you'll go to jail. And if you smash my car, do you and Mom have enough money to pay for it?" My dad gripped the hammer tightly in his hand and shouted, "Will you stop that sarcastic way of talking right now? I'm your father." As soon as he finished, I coldly replied, "Wrong person. I don't have a father. My father died the exact moment you smashed my daughter's Macbook." After saying that, I turned around, took the car keys with me, and walked straight into the house. I left them standing there with their anger, with the car that had no keys, with their humiliation in front of my neighbors. To them, they might think the relationship between them and me ended that night. But to me, that was just the beginning, because my following actions would make them pay the price they deserved for what they did to my daughter. After they left, I went back inside. The living room was now suffocatingly quiet, with only the Macbook's fragments scattered on the floor as evidence of the storm that had just passed. About 15 minutes later, the police arrived. 2 officers came in, 1 male and 1 female. They observed the scene, noted the fragments on the floor, and then began taking statements from the people present and me. I presented the whole sequence of events, from when Mason grabbed the gift to when my dad smashed the MacBook. After that, I opened my laptop, accessed the camera system, and played the entire sequence for them. The video clearly captured every moment. The 2 officers silently watched the entire video. The female officer shook her head, while the male officer continuously wrote in his notebook. Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Miller, the 2 kind neighbors, also provided sworn testimony. They recounted everything in detail and objectively. Their statements completely matched what the video had recorded. An hour later, after completing the initial procedures and collecting all the evidence, the police left. They had everything they needed to proceed with the case. Everyone at the party helped me clean up the MacBook fragments. Each piece of plastic, each shard of broken glass was picked up and thrown in the trash bag. Looking at those fragments, I didn't feel sorry about the money. I just felt heartbroken that my daughter's expectations and joy had been shattered along with the machine. After cleaning up, everyone left one by one. The neighbors squeezed my hand tightly, encouraging me after Mia's birthday party had been destroyed by the very people who called themselves family. Around 10 p.m. that day, after all the guests had left, I went to Mia's room and knocked on the door. Mia opened the door after 2 minutes, her eyes swollen. Clearly, Mia had cried a lot after everyone left. Seeing her like that, my heart felt like it was being squeezed. But then, the sadness on Mia's face quickly disappeared when she saw what I was holding in my hands. It was a brand new MacBook, pink, Mia's favorite color. Her eyes opened wide, not believing what she was seeing. After everyone left, I immediately contacted a nearby store and asked them to rush deliver a new MacBook. Since it was past 9 p.m., they initially refused to deliver. But after I explained my situation, told them about the ruined birthday party, about the MacBook being smashed in front of my daughter, the store manager changed his mind. He said he also had a daughter and he understood how a father felt. He personally drove over to deliver the new MacBook to me. Looking at the pink MacBook in my hands, Mia said emotionally in a shaky voice, "Dad, you didn't need to buy another MacBook. I'm okay." I patted her head and said, "My daughter deserves to have a MacBook. No one has the right to steal your joy." Mia burst into tears again, but this time they were tears of happiness. Holding her in my arms, I promised myself I would never let anyone bully my daughter again. And that very night, I decided I would make them pay the price for their cruel actions. Midnight, after Mia had fallen asleep, I was still sitting in front of my laptop screen in my office. I sat watching the video from the living room camera again, looking again at the scene of Mia crying, the scene of my dad throwing the MacBook to the floor, the scene of their whole family laughing and joking over my daughter's pain. Each frame was like a knife cutting into my heart. I decided to post that video on social media. Initially, I hesitated a bit because the incident involved Mason, a 14-year-old child. But after thinking it through, I realized that all our relatives and acquaintances needed to know the truth about what had happened. They needed to know the true faces of people who had long been praised as an exemplary family. As for Mason, he needed to learn the lesson that actions have consequences. The video, over 10 minutes long, was then posted to my personal page. I added a short but meaningful status: toxic family. From today on, my family is just Mia and me. After finishing the post, I shut down the computer, turned off my phone, and went to sleep after a long, exhausting day. The next morning, as soon as I opened my phone, I was overwhelmed by a series of notifications. Tons of messages and missed calls appeared on the screen. My post had hundreds of comments from relatives, friends, and even strangers. Someone had shared this post, and it spread at lightning speed. People watched the video a lot, and after watching it, they all left comments. What surprised me was that all the comments were on my and Mia's side. My mom's cousin wrote, "I can't believe this. Is this how they treat their motherless granddaughter? Disgusting." An old friend of my dad's commented, "Thomas, I've known you for 50 years. I never thought you could do something like this to your own granddaughter." A stranger wrote, "A grandfather smashing his granddaughter's birthday gift? He should be sued in court and get life in prison." Some people tagged Alex and Emily, calling them failed parents who raised their child to be a thief. Seeing everyone's support, especially from relatives, I believed my parents and Alex's family would soon face the consequences of their actions. And just as I predicted, around 10 a.m., my phone rang. Alex's name appeared on the screen. As soon as I pressed answer, Alex shouted, "You bastard! How dare you put us on social media? Do you know my wife and I are about to lose our jobs? Colleagues are whispering behind our backs. Relatives have been calling to curse us out from morning till now. It's all your fault." After hearing what Alex said, I replied, "Get lost." After saying that, I hung up and blocked his number immediately. 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. This time it was my dad's number. He shouted through the phone as soon as I answered, "You're a monster. No one puts their own parents on social media to shame them. God will punish you." As soon as he finished, I replied without hesitation, "No grandfather smashes his granddaughter's Macbook either. If you can dish it out, you'd better be able to take it. God will send you to hell when you die." Dad gritted his teeth and asked back, "What did you just say to me?" I replied sarcastically, "Are you deaf, old man? Go get your ears checked." After saying that, I hung up again and blocked his number too. I also blocked my mom's and Emily's numbers. And those were just the first steps in my plan to make them pay the price. That very afternoon, I contacted a reputable law firm in the city. The lawyer handling my case was named Robert, a middle-aged man with many years of experience in lawsuits. After hearing me present the entire incident and watching the video from the security camera, Mr. Robert nodded and said, "This is a pretty clear-cut case. You have video evidence, witnesses, and a police report. We can definitely win this lawsuit." I asked him about the process and timeline. Mr. Robert explained that with such complete evidence, we could request a quick trial. I nodded and said, "I want to push this as fast as possible. Money isn't an issue. I want them to understand that actions have consequences." Mr. Robert looked at me with understanding eyes and replied, "I understand. This isn't just about the MacBook. This is about justice for your daughter. We have to work on the paperwork immediately." Just 1 month later, the trial took place. The trial proceeded quickly because the evidence was so clear. The video was played on the courtroom screen. Everyone present fell silent, watching as my dad smashed the MacBook. Mia's cries from the video echoed through the courtroom, making many people turn away. My dad's lawyer tried to defend him, saying it was an action done in anger without intent. But Mr. Robert countered sharply. He pointed out that my dad had actively grabbed the MacBook, lifted it high, and slammed it hard to the ground. That was clearly an intentional action, not an accident. Finally, the judge delivered the verdict. My dad, who directly smashed the MacBook, had to compensate for the full value of the MacBook plus emotional distress fees for Mia. The total compensation exceeded $25,000. When the judge finished reading the verdict, I turned to look at Mia. My daughter sat there with calm eyes, neither happy nor sad. Perhaps for her, the compensation money wasn't necessary. What mattered was that justice had been served. But the story didn't end there. Following lawyer Robert's suggestion, the court also issued a restraining order. My parents and Alex's family were banned from coming near my house, Mia's school, and any other places my daughter and I regularly went. The order was effective for life, and any violation would result in criminal prosecution. After the trial, as we stepped out of the courtroom, Mia and I walked past where my parents and Alex's family were standing. They looked at me with eyes full of hatred, but no one dared say anything because the restraining order was effective immediately. I held Mia's hand tightly, walked straight toward the exit, not looking back even for a second. This chapter of my life had closed. Those who were once family were now just strangers, and the law had ensured they could never come close to hurting my daughter again. 2 years have passed since that fateful birthday. Today, as I tell this story, Mia is 16 years old. My daughter has grown so much, both physically and mentally. She's still passionate about technology, still dreams of becoming a software engineer. The pink MacBook I gave her that night is still used every day by her to learn programming. Mia and I have had a peaceful life. We take care of each other. We no longer have contact with my parents or Alex's family. When someone deliberately brings them up, I'll ask that person not to mention them or I'll stand up and leave. Some wounds run too deep to heal. Through my story, I want to share with you 3 lessons I've learned. Lesson 1. Never stay silent in the face of injustice. Lesson 2. Family isn't just about blood. People who call themselves family but don't love and respect you don't deserve to be in your life. Sometimes, kind neighbors are more valuable than blood relatives. Lesson 3. Always protect your children. Children are the most precious gift life gives you. Don't let anyone have the right to bully or hurt your child. You're the final wall protecting them, and that wall isn't allowed to fall. My story ends here. Before finishing, I have one question I want to ask you. Should I someday forgive and reconcile with my parents and my brother Alex's family? Please feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below this story. If the story touched your emotions, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, and share this story. Thank you for listening to my story.